Imagine you break your arm, right? You go to the hospital, they take an x-ray, and it gives you this clean binary answer.
Broken or not broken?
Exactly. It's a sharp, visible line. And we have spent, well, I mean, the better part of the last century trying to x-ray human intelligence the exact same way.
Oh, totally.
We use these standardized tests and rigid grading scales, just, hoping to find a clean, visible line that tells us exactly what a student knows.
But what happens when the tool you're using to measure human potential just suddenly stops working?
Right. You realize you've been looking at the wrong kind of picture all along.
Hmm.
And a new May 2026 paper from the Impact Journal basically proves that generative AI has essentially broken that educational X-ray machine for good.
Yeah, shattered it, really.
So today on the Deep Dive, we are looking at a study by Marvin Starinsky-Ihara. It's titled Generative AI, Integrated Curricula, and a New Index for Measuring Creative and Original Learning.
Quite a mouthful, but a really important one.
It is. And look, this isn't just another think piece about kids using AI to cheat on their English essays. It is a detailed look at how AI is acting as a literal catalyst, tearing down the traditional walls between school subjects and entirely reshaping how human creativity is measured.
Right, it's completely changing the game.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand the impact here, we need to look at how this study was put together.
Yeah, the foundation of this paper it's what makes its conclusions so hard to ignore. Starinsky-Ihara conducted a systematic literature review,
Okay.
and they started with a massive pool of 1,720 records and filtered them down using strict Prisma procedures.
Wait, before we move on, Prisma procedures. For those of us who, don't spend our weekends reading systematic reviews, what exactly is the filter they are using here?
Oh, fair question. Prisma is essentially the gold standard checklist for scientific reviews. It stands for Preferred Reporting Items for Systematic Reviews and Meta-Analyses. It's basically a strict set of rules that forces a researcher to show their exact math for why a study was included or thrown out.
So you can't just pick the data you like.
Exactly. It prevents cherry-picking data to support a pre-existing bias.
Right.
So when they used Prisma alongside bibliometric analyses, which is just a way of mapping out how different pieces of research cite and connect to each other over time,
Right.
they were basically ruthlessly weeding out junk science. They also deliberately excluded higher education studies, purely technical papers and theoretical pieces that just, didn't have practical classroom implications.
So they were really just looking for undeniable empirical evidence of what happens in primary and secondary classrooms, like middle schoolers and high schools.
Yes, exactly. They narrowed that initial mountain of records down to just 22 highly relevant empirical studies. And these were all published between 2022 and 2025.
Wow, 22. I mean, you could argue 22 is a pretty focused sample size, right?
You could, yeah. But the author points out that the consistency of the positive outcomes across all these different methodologies, like case studies, control groups, large-scale implementations, it forms a really robust, undeniable pattern.
Okay, so if the data is that solid, let's talk about the core problem it actually addresses.
Yeah, the silo issue.
Right. I think anyone listening to this, whether you're a parent, a student, or just, someone who went through the school system, knows this feeling. It's the outdated way we organize education. I like to think of the traditional subject-based curriculum like a frozen TV dinner.
Oh, I love that, with the little compartments.
Exactly. The compartments. The math peas are in one section, the history mashed potatoes are in another, the science mystery meat is up top, and the cardinal rule of the TV dinner is they never touch.
Never.
You go to period 1, you do math, the bell rings, you shut that compartment, and you move to the history compartment. But real life, the problems you and I face every day isn't a TV dinner. Real life is a stew.
It's messy. Everything's mixed.
Right. Everything is mixed together. So my question for you, looking at this research, is generative AI just the spoon stirring the pot, or does it actually change the ingredients of the stew?
Well, what's fascinating here is that generative AI isn't just the spoon. It's actually the heat under the pot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and causes a chemical reaction between the ingredients. The paper discusses how AI actively bridges these isolated disciplines to create what's called an integrated curriculum, or IC.
Integrated curriculum, meaning the peas and potatoes are finally combining to solve a single problem.
Yes. IC connects disciplinary knowledge around coherent themes or, real-world issues. But historically, that's been incredibly hard for a single teacher to orchestrate.
Right, because how does a biology teacher seamlessly integrate complex statistical modeling into a lesson on plant growth if they aren't, like, a math expert?
Exactly. They don't have the time or the background. And that is where the AI steps in.
Yeah.
The source material describes AI tools functioning as objects to think with.
Objects to think with. I love that phrase. But how does it actually work in practice? How is an algorithm an object to think with?
Okay, think about a student trying to design a sustainable housing model.
Sure.
They need to understand the physics of heat retention, the math of geometry, and the environmental science of materials. When they hit a wall on the math, the traditional approach means they stop, get frustrated, and the project stalls.
They just wait for the teacher to help them.
Right. But with generative AI acting as an instructional assistant, they can ask the AI to instantly visualize the geometry or, explain the heat loss formula in simple terms.
That's amazing.
It is. The AI provides real-time pattern recognition and instant feedback, so it allows the student to stay in the creative flow of the science problem without being totally derailed by a technical roadblock in a different subject.
So it basically lowers the barrier to entry for cross-disciplinary work. It lets a kid punch above their weight class when they are combining subjects.
Exactly. It creates a highly responsive environment. The paper mentioned gamified, problem-based setups using large language models that actually improved critical thinking and programming.
Just because they could test things faster?
Yeah, they could test hypotheses rapidly. They aren't waiting for a teacher to grade a worksheet on a Tuesday. They're interacting with the material dynamically, in real time.
Okay, I hear the theory. It sounds great on paper. But if we are fundamentally changing the curriculum and breaking down these silos, I need the hard evidence. What are the actual measurable results for the students?
Oh, you want the hard evidence?
Yeah.
The data drop in this paper is staggering. In a meta-analysis of the reviewed studies, generative AI showed a massive effect on computational thinking. The effect size was G equals 1.104.
Okay, let's pause right there. For those who might be a little rusty on their statistics, what does an effect size of 1.104 actually mean in the real world?
Right, numbers in a vacuum don't mean much. So in educational research, an effect size over zero 0.4 is generally considered the hinge point where an intervention is actually worth doing.
Okay, so 0.4 is the benchmark.
Yeah, so an effect size of 1.104 is astronomical. To put it simply, it means that an average student, someone sitting right at the 50th percentile, who uses these AI-enhanced integrated methods, would suddenly be outperforming about 86% of the students in a traditional classroom setting.
Wow, wait, 86%. That is a massive leap in capability.
It's huge. And it wasn't just computational thinking. For critical thinking, the effect size was 0.632, which is still a very, very strong gain.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because I was reading through the specific outcomes from the paper, and there's this one detail that absolutely blew my mind.
The patent applications.
Yes. They documented a large-scale implementation involving 25,432 students. And these students generated over 75,000 ideas.
And it's what they did with those ideas that really matters here.
Right. From those ideas, high school and primary students filed 196 patent applications.
It's incredible.
I mean, we aren't talking about a nice diorama made out of shoeboxes here. We are talking about legally recognized intellectual property.
Yeah.
And there was another study integrating machine learning and color chemistry, where students developed virtual pH meters powered by AI.
Yeah, that specific study is incredibly revealing about the how, because that's the big question, right?
Right. Let's break down exactly how a 12-year-old does this. My initial thought is, look, there's no way a middle schooler is coding a complex AI vision system from scratch.
No, they aren't. And that's the beauty of it. Traditional pH testing relies on a student looking at a strip of paper and trying to guess the exact shade of red or blue with their naked eye.
Which is always a mess.
All right. Human eyes are terrible at this. So instead, the students fed color chemistry data into the AI. They essentially use the AI as a translator between their scientific hypothesis and the software required to test it.
Oh, I see.
The AI helped them write the Python script to analyze the exact pixel data of the chemical reaction. And as a result, those virtual meters outperform human interpretation by a factor of over 5.
Wow. Outperformed humans by 5 times.
Okay, but I have to stop you here.
Sure.
Because I feel like I need to voice the skepticism that is probably, screaming in the listener's head right now.
Bring it on.
My fear here is that these kids were just typing invent a pH meter into the prompt box and blindly copying the output. If the AI is doing the synthesizing and the AI is outperforming human vision by 5 times...
Are the kids actually learning anything?
Exactly. Are they actually learning, or are they just outsourcing their brains to a machine?
That is the essential question. If they are just hitting a button, it's a parlor trick.
Right.
But the paper's findings on the nature of the interaction prove otherwise. So to answer your question, no. They are not outsourcing their brains.
Okay.
The paper highlights a study on middle school scientific inquiry that analyzed the actual chat logs between the students and the AI. Oh, that's cool. What did the transcripts actually show?
Nearly half of all the AI-supported conversations were intensely focused on experimental variables.
Really? Half?
Yeah. And these weren't just one-off commands. They were what the researchers call multi-turn dialogues.
Meaning a back and forth conversation, kind of like a debate.
Exactly. Imagine a student proposes a design for a water filtration system to the AI. The AI doesn't just say, here's the perfect design, go print it.
Yeah.
Instead, the AI might identify a confounding variable. Say, your design doesn't account for the pH level of the local groundwater.
Oh, interesting.
So the student then has to critically analyze that feedback, adjust their understanding of the chemistry, and refine their own design. The AI is basically acting as a highly responsive sparring partner.
So it's less like a robot doing your homework and much more like having a world-class tutor sitting next to you, constantly asking, hey, have you considered this variable? What if you adjust that material?
Precisely. And the studies show that when students engaged in this way, it dramatically boosted what the paper calls transversal skills.
Transversal skills, let's define that.
Right, so those are the skills that aren't tied to one specific subject. Things like complex problem solving, adaptability, and teamwork. Skills that transverse or cross over multiple domains.
Okay, makes sense.
The students are still the ones steering the ship. The AI is just giving them a much more sophisticated navigation system to explore with.
So if AI is successfully helping a 14-year-old refine experimental variables like a world-class tutor, and they are filing actual patents, I mean, that completely breaks our current grading system, doesn't it?
It shatters it.
Because you can't capture that multi-turn dialogue on a multiple-choice bubble sheet. It's like trying to measure the speed of a spaceship using a wooden ruler.
You absolutely cannot. The paper explicitly states that traditional standardized assessments are structurally inadequate for capturing the learning outcomes that these AI-enhanced models produce.
Because they just test rote memorization.
Exactly. A multiple-choice test measures what you can hold in your individual memory at one specific moment in time. It is totally blind to the collaborative, iterative problem-solving the AI era demands.
So if the old wooden ruler is broken, what does the paper suggest we use to measure success?
The author proposes a new framework called the Originality and Creativity Index, or the OSI.
OSI. Okay.
And this is a massive paradigm shift because it's designed to be a collective assessment framework.
Okay, let's look under the hood of the OSI. What does it actually measure?
It measures 4 distinct dimensions of student performance: critical and analytical skills, communication, collaboration, and community originality impact.
Okay, wait. Community originality impact. I need an ELI 5 on that. Explain it to me like I'm 5, because that sounds like serious buzzword bingo.
It does sound a bit academic, yeah.
What does that mean on a Tuesday morning in a high school?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the OCI is less like a spelling bee where you are judged alone in a microphone, and more like reviewing game tape in basketball.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, the teacher isn't just looking at the final score. They are watching how you pass the ball to your teammates, how you utilize the AI's feedback, and the final play the team executed.
Let's ground this even more. Instead of a history test on the Industrial Revolution where you just memorize dates, how would a teacher actually use the OCI?
They would use the OCI to grade a student portfolio.
Okay.
For example, a group of students might use AI to analyze local city planning records from the past 50 years. Then they map out a new, sustainable bus route for their actual neighborhood and present it to the city council.
Wow, that's a real-world application.
Exactly. And the grade isn't based on rote memorization. It's based on their collaboration, the iterative prompts they use to refine the route with the AI, and the final impact that proposal has on their community.
Right.
That is community originality impact. In fact, the paper cited open schooling projects across 3 countries that used AI-driven sustainability initiatives exactly like this, which significantly increased student confidence and motivation.
I love that. The test is basically, show me the project you and your team built to solve a real problem, and show me the game tape of how you used AI to get there.
Exactly.
But I'm going to push back here, because reviewing game tape is inherently subjective.
Sure is.
How do you put a letter grade on that without it being completely arbitrary?
That leads right into the implementation challenges. The author doesn't pretend this is easy.
Right.
The ONSI isn't meant to completely displace existing assessments overnight. It's designed to be adaptable. but it requires robust infrastructure.
Which brings us to the reality of the classroom. Because a shiny new grading index sounds utopian, but what does this all mean for, the exhausted teacher?
Yeah, the one on the front lines.
Exactly. The teacher on a Tuesday afternoon who has 30 kids in a room, a mountain of grading, and who doesn't happen to have a degree in computer science. Are we just handing them another massive, complicated grading rubric and saying, good luck, figure it out?
It's the most critical hurdle. The literature review clearly outlines the immediate barriers: teacher workload, limited access to technology, and profound uncertainty about how to integrate generative AI effectively.
The anxiety has to be off the charts. If you're an English teacher being told to evaluate an AI-assisted environmental science project, where do you even start?
Well, the study provides a very reassuring finding on exactly this point.
Okay, good.
It turns out that a teacher's success with AI in the classroom depends less on their technical expertise and more on sound pedagogical decision-making.
Meaning, good teaching is still good teaching.
Precisely. You don't need to know how to code the AI. You just need to know how to guide human learning.
Right.
You need to know how to ask the student, why did you choose to accept the AI's suggestion here but reject it there?
So you're evaluating their critical thinking process.
Exactly. But schools cannot leave teachers on an island to do this. The paper outlines specific actionable takeaways. Schools must prioritize sustained professional development and, most importantly, protected collaborative planning time.
Oh, that makes sense. Because if we want the kids to break down the silos between math and history, the math and history teachers actually need time in their schedule to sit down and talk to each other to design these units.
Yes, you can't have an integrated curriculum without integrated planning.
Right.
And to address your earlier point about subjective grading, the paper recommends using standardized rubrics and conducting peer calibration sessions.
What does that look like?
This is where teachers sit down together, look at the same student portfolio, and debate the score until they align on what excellence looks like in this new paradigm. Crucially, teachers must track student growth cumulatively over a term.
So you are evaluating the evolution of the idea.
Yes, the entire multi-turn dialogue, not just the final output.
So you're grading the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. But there is one final critical warning in the paper we have to touch on.
What's that?
We have to talk about the digital divide.
Ah, right. Because if the new definition of educational success is based on what you can build with an AI sparring partner, and you don't have internet access or a device at home,
You're in trouble.
you're not just at a slight disadvantage. You are fundamentally locked out of the curriculum.
It is a severe structural issue. Unequal access to digital resources could completely derail a student's ability to participate in these community-facing AI-enhanced projects.
Yeah.
The paper notes that if institutions don't solve this infrastructure problem on the front end, this incredible tool for equity could actually end up widening the achievement gap.
It's a sobering reality check, but an essential one. So looking at the whole picture, generative AI really is moving us away from that frozen TV dinner model of education.
It really is.
It's taking us from siloed, memory-based schooling where subjects never touch into a stew of integrated, community-focused learning. And this new Originality and Creativity Index, the OCI, might just be the new ruler we need to measure this incredible era of human and AI collaboration.
It really is a complete shift in how we value intelligence.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with a lingering concept to mull over. The OCI measures our collective ability to solve real-world problems alongside AI, rather than our individual ability to recall facts in isolation.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. So if you think about the implications of that, if education is fundamentally shifting from what you know individually to what we can build together, how will that change the way you approach your own career?
Wow.
How will it change your next collaborative project or your very definition of human intelligence in the years to come?
It's a massive question. It really is time to throw away the broken X-ray machine. We need a better way to look at human potential. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.